said, I want to welcome you guys to our um, work system design cohort. And this is the opportunity we will use to create a fundamental background and viable information concerning the competency for work system design and scheduling. This is a very important aspect of your C215 course. While it only covers one chapter from the text and represents 9% of the assessment, it is also a critical component of what you will learn in the operations management course. Several of the things that we will talk about today, you'll begin to realize, oh, I know this, but then I didn't really look at it from that perspective because we have to understand too that learning in itself, based on every aspect of or each subject rather, has its own language, right? So as you enter a course like operations management, there is a language, and that's where those terminologies come in. But generally, these are concepts that we utilize every day, no matter what organization that we work for. All right. So here's some of the things that we will look at, or here are the things that we will look at today. We'll look at the components of work system design, which we'll talk about job design, work measurement, and worker compensation. These are the three core elements of what a work system design is made of. Then we'll talk about methods analysis, and we're going to look at the steps in methods analysis. All of these things that we'll talk about today, they are very important in your learning of this chapter and this competency. So I think we can start off by defining what do we understand or what do we mean by work system design. I think in layman terms, we can look at this in relation to every one of us, every one of us really can say, I have a system, right? My system actually represents the way that I do things. How do I get things done, right? What process do I follow to get something done? So I think of let's think of it in terms of you go to work every day, right? So what is the system that you have in place for getting ready in the morning, right? Some of us now are homeschooling our kids, right? We're doing this e-learning stuff. What system, and at the same time, even doing our full-time job, right, from home. What system do you have in place to ensure that your kids get the schoolwork done for the day and then you get your job done for the day as well? We all utilize a system to get things done. And that's really what this is all about. Work system design. What system, structure, process, strategy that an organization has in place to get this done, to get your job done, right? So that's really the fundamental aspect of what work system represents. So every company has objectives. You see that in the mission statement. You see that in the vision statement. You could see that's in the core values of the company, the about us page. The company that you work for has objectives. What is it that we want to establish? What is it that we want to obtain? You think of the university, Western Governors University. We have an objective to provide valuable education to our students. That is what we want to establish as a company. So every company, a hospital, a restaurant, a manufacturing plant, your local retail store or grocery store, a clothing store, your doctor's office, pediatrician office, every organization has core objectives. They have things that they want to happen, they want to do, right? Why do we exist? That's the company's objectives. So, out of that objective, the company develops operational strategies. That is the how are we going to accomplish what we want to accomplish. As you study work system design, I want you to look back historically into the organization and not necessary from where you are going forward. You have to be able to look at this concept in relation to how the company was established. How did I get a job to this company? How did I apply for a job and get this job? And then when I came to work, these were the things that I had to do from day one. And I'm still doing those things right now, no matter how many years, right? So you make sure you're looking at this from that perspective because it has to do with how a company establishes its work in the company, its job, the job that you have. It has to do with those things. It has to do with how you get compensated, how the company determines that you have to work an 8 to 5 shift or you have to work a 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. shift or 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. shift. That's what this all entails. So you have to look at it from more of a historical perspective. If you are an individual who is anticipating one day to start off your own business, this subject rather, is very vital for you to help establish your company objectives, to also determine your organizational strategies, how you're going to get what you want to accomplish. It's also important for you to realize when I hire staff to work for me, how am I going to pay them? How am I going to describe and define their jobs? How are they going to know what to do? And how am I going to measure their work? And these are some things that we'll look at later on. So look at it from that perspective. This is more of a historical concept in comparison to subject like capacity planning and something like quality management, which is like the now going forward. So this is establishing, giving you a picture of the organization as to how it came to be and how that's allowing it rather to function day to day. You have a job, you get hired, somebody else has a job, you work for a team, you get to work on projects and so on and so forth. This subject kind of establishes the concept of the fundamentals of how all of this came to be. All right. So the company develops strategies to achieve its objectives. Remember, company starts with objectives, mission statement, vision statement. Now it develops strategies as to how do we get those what to become a reality. So the operation strategies is what we call design a work system or work system design. So the company to bring the how into play, it has to develop a work system or a process in order to get this done. Work system design therefore provides structure for examining or achieving the objectives. All right, so let's take it this way. Company has objectives, right? That's what do we exist? Why do we exist? What are we supposed to do as an organization? It develops operational strategies to achieve those objectives, how to achieve it. The operational strategies, the company designs a work system for the how, right? And then the work system is in reality a structure to achieve those objectives. All right. So that's what work system is about. Therefore, there are three components or elements within work system design. Number one, there is job design or designing the job, right? Or the work, how the work or the job is designed. There is work measurement and there is worker compensation. So we're going to look at each of those three components one by one so we have a better idea on what each represents. So job design or designing the job. If you guys remember, there was once upon a time you applied for the job that you currently are in, right? It was posted maybe on a company website, somewhere on the internet or somewhere on LinkedIn. And the first thing that you did was you read the whole job description, the requirements, what you're supposed to do, the education requirements, and all of that stuff. That's how the job is designed. Went to an interview, you got hired, and then they said to you, this is what you have to do, right? All that was put in place before you got hired. All that was put in place before the job was even posted so you could apply for it. That's job design. The job is designed so that employees come to work and they know what they have to do. Then you get trained once you get hired to do what is required of you. So the objective of job design is to deal with productivity, how much work you have to do, what you're supposed to do, safety, which is essential because an organization wants to ensure that its employees are safe, and then a quality of life, which entails I am satisfied with my job. I am happy with what I am doing. And that could be a nursing position, it could be a manufacturing position, anywhere you work, this would represent a quality of life. Job design actually represents the act of specifying the contents or the activities and the methods of a job. That is, what will the job entail? Who will do the job? How will it be done? And where will it be done? Now, think for a moment. The position that you currently are in, there were several people who applied for that position, potentially 1,000 people. The recruiters then filter through those resumes and say, okay, we go from 1,000 to 50 to 5, and now we'll interview 5 people, but we're only filling in one position, right? You meet the qualification that aligns with the job design. What will the job entail? Who will do the job? How it will be done? And where it will be done. You meet that qualification and therefore you were hired for that position. Job design. All right. So there are three key factors in designing a job. So when an organization is designing a job, and that could be a project that you have to work with or a position within the company, right? There are three things that are taken into consideration. Number one, technical feasibility. That is the individual or even the group mental and physical ability to do that job. Now, technical, think of it in terms of not having computer skills or being computer literate, but your mental as well as your physical ability to do that job. That is very critical, right? You have the second thing is the economic feasibility. That is the value a job adds, right? Is this job going to allow a company to be better off? And the cost of having that job, is it going to bring a profit to the organization? So we have to take that into consideration. If an organization decides to expand or to improve a process, is this feasible? Is this economically feasible? Will that add any value to the company? And also, is it going to cost the company money where we're operating now at a loss rather than at a profit? And then the third thing in job design is behavioral feasibility. That is, the employee derives intrinsic satisfaction from the job. So these are the three things that are taken into consideration when an organization designs a job, because essentially you want your employees to be satisfied. All right. So in considering each of the three factors we mentioned, the company decides if the job or even parts of the job should be automated. All right. So, for example, if an organization creates a position and it says, all right, can we use people to do this instead of machines? Can we automate this? Like a lot of us call customer service, and then we go through an automated system. It has come to reality even in this day and age that sometimes you can hardly get to speak to a live person when you call certain companies. Everything is automated, right? So instead of having to talk to someone and spend X amount of time speaking to someone, and the organization spending so much money paying so many people, they decide, okay, we can just set up an automated system and get all of this done, right? So you can look through your text and through your research and see, okay, when does a company decide to use machine or automation versus people, right? These are questions that I would like for you guys to answer in your study, because this is going to be critical for you to understand and know while you take and prepare for your objective assessment. All right. So that's job design. Next component is work measurement. Work measurement, we can think of it in terms of if an organization wants to improve, we should be able to measure, right? In order for us to improve as an organization, we have to be able to measure what we are doing. If we cannot measure what we're doing, then it's not possible for us to make necessary improvements. So work measurements ask the questions how you measure the amount of work an employee does, right? Work measurement will determine that. How do you measure the amount of work an employee does? It determines also how long it should take to get a job done. That's why you have shifts, you have schedules. You work 8 to 5 or 9 to 4, or you work, give me another shift, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Work measurement, it determines how long it should take to get a job done. And out of that comes what is called standard time. Standard time, your textbook decide as the time it should take a qualified operator or person or individual working at a sustainable pace and using the appropriate tools and process to do the job, right? So that's why sometimes you go to work and let's say you have an 8 to 5 job. You simply go to work for 8, you clock in at 8, you have a 15-minute break that you can take whenever, a 30-minute lunch probably. Then after lunch, you work some, then you have another 15-minute break, and then you go home, right? That's your qualified, sustainable pace of work. You're not pushed to do so many things at one time. That's your standard time. How do we get this done, this job done by people who are qualified for this job, just working regular hours, regular time, and they can get the job done and it's finished. That's what standard time represents. Now, out of standard time, you can have overtime and all of that good stuff because now we have to move away from the regular 8 to 5. There is a demand, and so we have to do more. Standard time is used for costing, right? So when an organization is developing that job or creating or designing that job, we have to think in terms of cost because labor has to be included in the cost of the product. All right. So think of yourself if you're working for a hospital. When the company developed your job, they also take into consideration not how much money they can make by hiring you, but they have to take into consideration how much it's good, how much they should pay you, the employee, in order to get this job done. And the next thing is performance, which is to track how the worker is performing. And then lastly, planning, which helps in making plans. So these are three things that are considered when an organization is deciding on standard time. So now we've looked at job design, work measurement, and the third component of work system design is compensation. I'll read this statement. It is important for an organization to develop a suitable compensation plan for its employees. So part of work system design is worker compensation, which tells why you're getting paid the salary that you're getting paid or the wage that you're getting paid, the hourly wage. It tells that. That's part of the whole work system design plan. So an organization knows when, again, let's go back to the job that was advertised that you applied for, right? That job already had three things. It was designed, you read the job description and the requirement. There was a measurement that's not exposed that you will find out when you get hired for the position. And then there is also that compensation. Now, some companies will put the compensation on the job application, right? They will put on the job posting. They will do that. Some you will have to wait until you get hired for you to know, or even in the interview for you to know how much the job pays. That's the compensation. Compensation plans include time-based, that is used when measuring output is not applicable, is paid, your pay is steady, and then you have a regular paycheck. What does that normally mean? You're being paid like I pay $18 an hour, $15 an hour. That's time-based um, uh, compensation. Then there is also output based. An example would be people that are paid by commission. I remember years ago, I interviewed to work for Aflac, And it's just, I don't know why I wanted to do this. Just graduated with my bachelor's degree, and I just applied, and I went to an interview, and they said, well, we'll pay you based on how many policies that you sell. That's the commission. If you sell, the people who sell cars, normally they get paid based on the number of cars that they sell. And then another compensation plan is incentives, which is comprised of group incentives such as profit sharing and gain sharing. Most of us can get fall into that category. Sometimes we work with organizations who, at the end of the year, they'll give us something like some type of incentive, like a bonus at the end of the year. You got your bonus check this year. Then normally that's part of the compensation plan. And another thing you might not find outlined in your book, but it's the knowledge. Some company will have a compensation plan that's based on knowledge, right? That is specialized labor, right? So an individual may be hired to do something specific, and they will get paid because they're specialized to do so. This is very common in the IT industry. This is very common even in hospitals, right? So a hospital could hire a specialist to perform a special surgery and pay that specialist based on that, on their specialty or their knowledge. All right. So that's compensation, worker compensation. So considering job design, work measurement, and worker compensation, it is important for, as we said before, an organization has to take the necessary steps to improve. So improvement means we're getting better, we're becoming more efficient, we're becoming more effective. And if the organization is getting more effective, then it's better able to serve its customers and to have customer satisfaction. So what is done is every now and then a company will do what is called methods analysis. That's why you might think as your company asks, oh my gosh, they're always changing things. They're always bringing new things. We last 2 weeks we were doing this and now we're doing that. Some of you might say, I'm working for a company where change is just inevitable. It's like every day something is changing. Every week something is changing. Oftentimes that is based on methods analysis, which is simply an evaluation or an analysis or a study of the methods, how we are doing things. Remember, we talk about operation strategies, how things are being done. So ever so often, a company will review its methods of how things are being done and potentially make new changes or make changes as deemed necessary. So methods analysis represent a procedure, a technique, or process used by self-directed teams for making improvements. And self-directed teams are generally a group of individuals that the organization utilizes to help make changes or improvement. Oftentimes, that could be someone like you. If you were involved in any capacity to help rewrite some processes or some procedures or how some things are being done in your company, you were part of that team. That was part of what is known in our language as a methods analysis. Self-directed teams, they represent a group of people who are empowered to make changes in their work process. You may think I have operated in that function at one time. So part of a methods analysis, some examples include a change in a product design, maybe a new product development, maybe changes in process and procedures, or even making decision to change an equipment. That's part of a methods analysis. So we'll wrap up our session and we'll identify the steps in methods analysis. I want to recommend that you know those 5 or 7 steps rather in methods analysis. These are very critical for the work system design competency on your exam. So number one in the methods analysis, identify the operation to be analyzed. Which of the processes, which part of our operation needs some change, not some adjustments, which one we want to revamp or potentially improve. Once this is done, step two, in that order, gather all the relevant information about the operation. Why is that necessary? Knowledge helps with the decision-making process. A third thing to do is talk with employees who use the operation or who have used similar operations, right? That's critical because the input that you receive, you can utilize that input to see what needs to be changed, what's working, and what's not working. The fourth thing is chart, or the fourth step, chart the operation, whether it's a new operation or it's an existing operation. Chart it, put it down in chart. Write it. What do we do? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Write down each of the steps that's currently happening, so you can have a very good picture of how things are done in the organization. Number 5, evaluate each of the steps of the process. Whether it's a new process or an existing process, evaluate each of those steps. This step is important to help determine if this will add value to the organization or if it's going to create some type of additional cost, right? Number 6, revise as needed, which is make the necessary connection. And last but not least, number 7, put the revised or new operation into effect and then follow up to see if it's working. You could answer the question, do your changes to the existing operation improve it, or does your operation add to the company's overall value? So this concludes the 6 or 7 steps in methods analysis. And so I want to reemphasize something that I stated at the beginning, that an organization is designed to create some sort of efficiency or to be effective in what it does. Because an organization that functions at an efficient level is able to provide satisfied customers. If we're doing well, the company is doing effectively, then your customers will be satisfied. All right. So what I want to do